Hello guys, today I'll be reacting to Horror Stories Animated. Let's do this. Okay.
Becoming a sandwich artist at Subway was never on my list of goals for the year I turned 25. And sandwich artist is just a fancy way of saying dude who makes cold cuts and meatball subs for 8 hours a day. But with a wedding to pay for and my graphic design business limping along during the pandemic, it was hard for me to turn down the job when they started offering $17 an hour. My first few weeks working at Subway were draining if uneventful. You could fall into a rhythm most days. Open the store, prep work, breakfast rush, bread in the oven, downtime, lunch rush, on and on. Most days I felt like a robot, applying meat and cheese and veggies and condiments down the assembly line. At least my manager, Kimberly, was chill. She was younger than me, barely out of high school. A tiny whirling ball of energy who genuinely seemed excited to be at work each day. While I didn't share Kimberly's enthusiasm, I did my best to at least be professional. I greeted customers when they came in and did my best to let any rudeness I encountered roll off of me. That worked fine until the day Don't Tread on Me came into the store. I don't really give a damn about anyone's politics, but I do think it's obnoxious when you shout them off of rooftops. Mr. Tread was huge, at least 6'2", 200 pounds of muscle and beer gut, straining and stained. Canary yellow t-shirt with a Gadstag flag on the front. You know, the one with the coiled snake and the motto, "Don't tread on me"? It was like the 2020's new uniform for wannabe tough guys. This dude could have been 25 or 55. It was hard to tell because of his bushy beard, baseball cap, and the sunglasses that he continued to wear even after entering the Subway. I'm an average-sized guy, and I have to admit, I felt a little intimidated when Mr. Don't Tread stomped into my counter, dirty cowboy boots firing off on the tiled floor like a shooting pistol. "How can I help you?" I asked. The guy was chewing on something, maybe gum or skull. He confirmed it was the latter when he pulled an empty cup from the rack and spit dark tobacco-infused saliva into it.
Who would like to pay the bill?
The weakest among us.
I've cleared 10 chapters in Infinity Magic Raid, and I've...
"Can you guys do custom orders?" he asked. "And I mean, can you put a custom sub together for me without screwing it up?" Yeah, I think we can handle that." The man spit into his cup again. "We'll see." Mr. Don't Tread ended up ordering a spicy Italian with bacon and steak added. All of the cheeses, no vegetables except onions, and one line of each sauce Subway carries. It was the most disgusting sandwich I ever put together. Once the main components were on, I moved the sub down our station for Kimberly to finish the condiments and to ring the guy up. "I'm going to need more of that Chipotle sauce there, honey," he said. "Sure thing," Kimberly chirped. "Anything else?" "How about your number on one of those napkins?" Kimberly smiled. "Sorry, I'm taken." "What's his name?" "Amanda." Mr. Don't Tread stood confused for a moment until the gears clicked in his brain. He grunted. "Whatever. Just give me the sub before I die of old age." Kimberly's smile never dropped while she rang up the order. "Freak," the man mumbled when he grabbed his food. I opened my mouth to snap back, but Kimberly caught my eye and shook her head as she gave the guy his receipt. I bit off my response. It would have been great if the jerk took his food and left the store, but he settled into one of the booths against the wall and proceeded to make a mess all over the table. He ate his sub like it was both his first and last time he was going to have a meal in his entire life. While Mr. Don't Tread was shoveling his food into his mouth, I exchanged a look with Kimberly. I winked. She rolled her eyes. It was a nice moment. Then we heard a chair screeching against the floor. Mr. Don't Tread was storming towards the counter, face red, beard full of deli meat and sauce. "What are you two trying to pull?" he demanded, waving the receipt in Kimberly's face. I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand,
back and
she
eat your
replied,
food.
still smiling but more brittle than before. Look at all these charges, Mr. Don't Tread shouted. I ordered a spicy Italian sub, and you expect me to pay $15 for that? What kind of scam are you running? Sir, those are the extra charges for all the things you added, I jumped in. Remember that you wanted bacon, steak, extra steak, actually, and... I'm not talking to you, bud. Or you, he said, glaring at Kimberly. I want to talk to the manager.
Karen.
I am the manager, Kimberly said. And I'm sorry that you're not satisfied with... You're the manager? He asked. They put a little girl in charge of the store? Yes, I am the manager, and there's no reason to be rude. You're a scammer is what you are, the man said, spitting his skull directly on the counter. A con artist. What's the deal, huh? You take a bunch of crazy charges to order, then pocket the difference? Kimberly wasn't smiling anymore. I felt stuck. Part of me wanted to get involved, but I wasn't sure if that would be right since Kimberly was the manager. The man was practically foaming at the mouth as he pointed a finger in her face. Get me the real manager, now, he growled.
I am.
Sir, I know you're upset, but whatever Kimberly was about to say to try to defuse the situation was lost when Mr. Don't Tread slapped her across the face. He hauled back for it, connecting with his open palm on her cheek with a sound like a whip crack. Kimberly stumbled and nearly fell. There was a red splotch already across her face that promised a nasty bruise in the future. She was crying but looked more confused than hurt. Don't ever lie to me, the man whispered. That's enough, I said, a little surprised to hear the words come out of my mouth. I'm calling the police. Call them, Mr. Don't Tread Me yelled. I dare you. I dare you. He turned and knocked over one of the tables. You're all a bunch of scam artists, he said, continuing to break anything he could get his hands on. Let's go back in and lock it, Kimberly said. I'll call the cops. Before she could open the door, Mr. Don't Tread turned and ran for the counter. I barely had time to step in front of Kimberly before he climbed past the register and grabbed for her. He and I struggled. The man was larger and stronger than I was, but he was almost ignoring me trying to get to Kimberly. You know how time can get weird when adrenaline kicks in? Everything felt like a blur with Kimberly shouting and the man pushing, his eyes white with rage, lips back in a snarl. Our fight was causing... Everything felt like a blur with Kimberly shouting and the man pushing, his eyes white.
This is gonna be a thumbnail. Thank you. Continue talking.
With rage, lips back in a snarl. Our fight was causing havoc behind the counter. The bread rack got knocked over, and the soda refills for the machine spilled across the floor. That's what caused Mr. Don't Tread to slip. It's not like I meant for him to fall. One moment he was trying to wrap a hand around my throat. The next his eyes went wide and his body inverted. It was like somebody flipped his personal gravity for a moment. It would have been funny, cathartic even, seeing his arms and legs flail as he fell, if not for the nauseating crunch I heard when his head connected to the counter. Mr. Don't Tread landed at a horrible angle, his neck bent in a way that could never look natural. Kimberly screamed. I don't really remember what happened next. If our fight was a blur, then the hour after the man died was a total fog. I know the police showed up, and an ambulance with a black body bag. I remember an officer telling me it looked like self-defense and that I'd need to visit the station for a statement. But the clearest of all is the memory of Mr. Don't Tread's face. He was a bully in life, but in death, with his neck broken, the man looked young and scared. I know I'll see that face in my dreams for the rest of my life. I know, but it's great money, relatively easy, and I've truly made some lifelong friends while working there. Anyone that works in any sort of fast food shop is bound to have their fair share of horror stories.
Voices.
A friend of mine that used to work at McDonald's almost got tasered when she went to take a customer's money through the drive-thru. Crazy shit. Anyway, apart from being robbed once while working and your general drunks, I've never had much of a story to tell. Until last week. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was on until 5 p.m. and started working that day at 6:30 a.m. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. It was around 3:30 when Riley, my female coworker, complained she felt sick. I don't think I could carry on today. Well, if you want, I can cover for you. Really? You will? Yeah, sure. Why not? Thanks a lot. I'll go and get some rest then. You're welcome. See you tomorrow, Riley. So, she left and time trickled by. The store was dead as anything. So I got pretty excited when a customer walked through the door. He looked like he was in his late 40s. He had a bald spot on his head, black hair surrounding that spot like uncut grass, and wore ridiculously thick glasses. The power in those glasses made his gray-brown eyes appear way bigger than normal. His demeanor was very sad. I greeted him with the usual, "Hi, how are you today?" "Fine." "So, what can I get you today?" "Doesn't matter. Just get me any sub and something to drink with it." Okay. Is everything all right?" Instead of replying to me, he looked right into my eyes and stared with a blank face. He didn't blink and continued this weird behavior for a few seconds. And then suddenly, his body moved in a slow twitch, as if he had just woken up from a trance. Yes, I'm fine. Okay, I'll get you one roast beef sandwich with a Herbert's lemonade. Will that be fine? Whatever. I started making the sandwich without saying anything else. It seemed like he didn't care much about life. Now, generally, I keep to myself, but like I said, I was extremely bored. And this guy's odd personality made me a little curious about him. Instead of grabbing a seat, he stood at the counter and stared at the clock on the wall, hanging right beside me. You can take a seat, as it's gonna take some time," I said while putting the beef on the grill. But he didn't respond to my statement, nor did he look at me. I was pouring ice into the lemonade cup when his phone rang. He picked it up and started talking. "Yes, I'm at the Subway." "Doesn't matter what I ordered. I didn't come here to eat anyway." "Yes, she's standing right in front of me." Hearing him talking about me with God knows who, my eyes suddenly turned towards him in surprise. I swear I've never met this guy before and had no idea who he was talking to or how he could know me. I said in a surprised voice, "Excuse me, are you talking about me?" He looked around with a confused face and then looked at me. The call was still going on and he replied, "Well, I don't see anyone else here." "Who are you talking to?" "My mother." "Why would your mother be asking about me?" "Because I talk to her about you all the time, Jolene." He said this with such a casual tone that suddenly the air around me dropped. I could feel the hair at the back of my neck standing up. I said in a fumbling voice, Who are you?" "Really? Have you never noticed me?" "What are you saying?" "Come on, Jolene. I followed you home every night and you never realized my existence?" The lemonade cup dropped on the floor, splashing the contents on my shoes as soon as he said that. Suddenly, a tiny memory hit me in the face. I remembered for an entire week. I felt someone's eyes on me while returning home after my shift. It was him. I slowly backed off from the counter and said, What do you want from me?" "I don't want anything from you. It's my mother. She wants you as her daughter-in-law, and I have no choice than to fulfill her wishes, Jolene. Saying this, he slowly shook his head down and started to rub his hands in a very freaky way. He was scratching the back of his neck and moving it from side to side like a mentally disabled person. I immediately realized this man and his mother were both crazy, and I needed to call for help. But I didn't want to startle him into doing anything harmful, so I began to handle the situation carefully. Look, whatever your name is, can I please talk to your mother? I think she's confused. Fine. Let me put her on speaker. He kept the phone on the counter and put the call on speaker. The number he dialed didn't show the name Mother on the screen. But as soon as he put it on speaker, my blood ran cold. An off-putting beeping sound was going on. The one you get when a call doesn't get connected. But this is... What did you say, Mom? Yes, I did tell her about your wish. But she's not understanding it. Why don't you tell her by yourself? Yes, tell her now. You're on speaker. I watched with terrified eyes as the man spoke to literally no one. It felt like instead of the beeping sound, he was hearing his mother's voice talking to him through the phone. Oh, Mom, you're so funny. Did you hear that, Jolene? She thinks our child would have your beauty and my brains.
You made The Tonight Show summer's #1.
Best summer ever.
I don't know what your problem is, but there's no one talking to you through this call. You need to go to a shrink and get your brain checked. I don't hear anything but beeps. Wherever your mother is, she's not on this call. How dare you talk to your husband like that? Maybe I was going too soft on you. Yes, Mom, you're all right. I have to teach her some lessons. Saying this, he suddenly lunged over the counter and tried to grab me by the hair. I turned back to run, but somehow he grabbed a chunk of my hair. But before he could lay his hands on me, I pulled myself with all my strength. His grasp was so tight that my hair tore right off my scalp. The sound of my hair tearing mixed with my painful scream made me realize that my life was in great danger, and I had to do something to survive this maniac. The chunk of my hair retained in his hands until I ran to the exit. I turned to look at him one last time before leaving the subway. Shocking enough, he didn't follow me. Instead, he gave a huge grin and smelt the hair in his hand. He moaned in a sickly pleasure as he smelt them. Then he looked at me with a spine-chilling, blood-curdling face and said in a creepy voice, "Let's sew ourselves together.
Stop being
Then
a
we can
crazy
hug
kid.
forever." I screamed for my life and started to run down the highway without looking back. He called out to me one last time, saying, "When you look out your window tonight, you might catch a glimpse of me." I can't explain how I got home that night, but after reaching home, the first thing I did was call my boss
telling
and then
me no.
911. The cops sent a patrolling officer down to my house to watch over my property for 3 nights straight. They never caught the man, and I changed my apartment and workplace. It's been 4 months now, and I haven't heard anything, and I'm pretty sure he's still out there, searching for me. Every night before I go to bed, I close my curtains because I fear what he told me might come true.
Pervert. Anyway, MGVN animations. These are really good. Keep up the good work. See you guys in the next one. Peace.